Hi everybody, welcome back to the BizTech Academy. In today's tutorial, we're going to look at something slightly different, and we're going to develop a full working Gantt chart in Excel. This tutorial should give you a really good understanding of how to use Excel for Gantt chart purposes, and also give you the ability to create your own Gantt chart and use that for your own projects. Let me just show you what we're going to create. Okay, so this is what we're actually going to produce, this Gantt chart format here. Just to start with a little bit of housekeeping, everything that is highlighted in green and italics is a variable and therefore would need to be input by anyone taking on or using this format for their own project. So for example, we've got some admin here, the project name, the company name and the project lead. We've got the tasks down the left. We've got owners here. Then we've got the duration days for each task. Then we've got start dates for each task as well. The start dates could be semi-automatic. They could be linked to some of the finish dates, and we'll look at that as we go through the tutorial. We've then also got progress. Although this automatically does update the bars, and I'll show you that in a second, the progress does need to be updated on a regular basis by the project manager. And then we've got the start date of the project itself. There's a couple of things here then that are automatic and calculated. The number of working days left in the project. So from today to the end of the project, how many days are left? That's calculated there. The finish date is calculated automatically based on the duration and the start date. So the finish date also accounts for weekdays and public holidays. So it removes those from the calculation. And I'll show you how that works as we go through the tutorials. And then finally, the task days here are the individual task days and how much time is left between today, whatever that day may be, and the end date of the particular task. Moving on to the sort of the body of the Gantt chart, you've got the bars here. The bars are set up automatically. They do not need to be input manually. So if we change the dates, for example, here, the finish date for task 1, if we make that the 10th of August and press enter, you can see it extends the bar as well as the rest of the project because they're linked to some extent here. If I change that link, if I remove the 11th of August and manually put in 8th of August for task 2, you can see it comes back and there's an overlap between the bar depending on what you want from the project. Just undo that, both of those. And then finally with the progress is automatic. So if we change this 50% here that's in task 1, we make that 100%. You can see then the bar goes fully red as a completed task. And I'll show you how you import and change that as well. Okay, that's it. We'll go through this tutorial step by step, and we'll start by looking at the framework of the project and just inputting some of the data, and then we'll move on to setting up the dates and putting those controls in place, and then work on the bars and also the progress as well. I do hope you like the video. If you do, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. But in the meantime, let's crack on. Okay, now we're just going to input some of the basic data. I will speed up the video for this. So to start with, project name, company name, and project lead. Then we'll move on to the project start date, the work days, and the display days, which I'll explain as we go through this tutorial. Next, we'll input the headings, tasks, owner, duration, start, finish, progress, and then the task days remaining. Next, we'll just put the tasks in. Of course, these are particular to any project, so you'll input these as you use this template for your own project. Following this, we'll put the owners in. I've just put some miscellaneous names in, some durations, and then the start date. And then the start date is manual. You put it in yourself, but you could also automate it to some extent and tie it into the finish dates of some of the tasks if you want them to be reliant on others. But again, we'll look at that as we go through the tutorial. Finally, the project start date. Put that in. I've used 31st of July. And then we'll change the format of the project start date. I like to show the date and the text of the month and then the year. Then we'll just copy that down to the task start dates. Next, we'll very quickly highlight all this in green and italics, everything that needs to be input. As I said, at the beginning of the introduction, some of this data is variable. So we'll just do that quickly. Then we'll just add a little note at the bottom explaining that to any new users that might be using the template. The next thing to do is to add the dates in for the particular weeks for the task. And we'll start initially by putting in the 31st of July as the start, but we want to do this and only showed 31. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the format cells and we'll just make a custom format and just show the day. So we'll copy this across to 1 week. It's important to note that the date is still in the cell. As you can see here, the dates are still in there for calculation purposes. We now want to add the day of the week. So we'll utilize the date we've input, and we'll use the text function and the DDD format to make this the day of the week. As you can see, this gives us a 3-letter day, but what we actually want is only the first letter of the day of the week. So we'll put the left function in front of the text function to do that. Now we'll copy that across, and then we'll make the dates and the days centered, and we'll reduce the columns to a manageable width. In this case, we'll start with 2.5. What we'll then do is add the start date of the week at the top as a heading, and to do that we'll just copy down the cell of the first date. We'll change the formatting so that it shows date, month and a year, and then we'll just copy that across by merging the cells. Finally, we'll highlight all the columns and drag these off as groups. I know that for this particular template, BZ is the final date of the project that we're going to use in this tutorial, so we drag across there, and then you can see it drags across the weeks, the dates, and all the days all the way across. And there we go. We have our framework. The final thing we'll do is link the start date of the timeline to the start date of the project. But as you can see, when I change the date here, it just changes the start date of the first day. So what we'll then do is add +1 to that day and copy it across. That means the whole table then is dynamic. And if I change the date then in the project start date, the rest of the project dates also change. Okay, let's move on to formatting. Okay, so with formatting, I'd obviously always say that that's subjective. I particularly like the style that I'm going to use now, but you can obviously format this in any which way you would like to. We'll start by wrapping the headings. We'll just drag them out a little bit and then make the row fit. And then we'll put a color to the whole row of the headings. I like to use blue and white, so we'll put a background of dark blue, and then we'll put the font as white. We'll then move on to the dates and the format here, and we'll use a light blue to contrast. And we'll put a frame around the whole lot. Just a light frame. Copy that format, and we'll just paste it all the way along with the paintbrush across the whole of the weeks. Okay, with that done, we'll now put some lines across the timeline, across the Gantt chart itself. We'll just use horizontal lines. So open up the formatter, go to borders, click on the thickness you want, and then just click it down, and press OK. Finally, we'll turn the grid lines off just to make it a little more presentable, and we'll just zoom it out a bit so we've got a bit more room. Okay, that's basically the formatting complete. So we'll now move on and we'll look at calculating the finish dates. So with the finish dates, what we want to make sure is that we're not just calculating a linear start to finish date. We need to account for both weekends and also for public holidays. With regards to accounting for weekends, we'll use a function, and we'll do that in a second. But with regards to public holidays, I have created a separate tab here. And on this tab, you can see that we have, just in this instance, US holidays. It doesn't have to be US holidays, but I've input every public holiday that exists in 2023. And you would do the same in this particular model for every particular public holiday that exists in the country of the project. Again, I've just used federal holidays just as an example here. So if we go back to the main worksheet, what you can see here is that we're going to input the function and use the function workdays. So we're going to open the builder, we're going to click on workdays, and we're going to drag the builder over. And for those of you who've seen my videos before, you'll know that I use the builder for relatively rare functions, and so that beginners or people who just haven't used the function before can see the logic of this function. And what this function actually does, as it says in the description, is it returns the serial number of the date before or after a specified number of working days. So before a date or after a date. And the syntax is that we have a workday. So the start date of the particular activity, the number of days the activity is going to take, and then you account for the holidays. So what we'll do, we'll first of all import the start date, and the start date is the first date of the task that we're trying to calculate the finish date. So in this instance, July the 31st. We'll put in the number of days, which is the duration days. And then we go to the holidays, and we click on the public holidays tab, and we highlight all of the dates where we have public holidays. You can see that it's now calculating the 8th of August, which is 6 working days to finish the project, and then we start again on the 8th. So that's very, very useful. Now, the thing that you need to do and make sure, though, is the public holidays must be locked in, because what we don't want to do is drag this down or copy this down and then the relative cells of the public holidays not be locked in. So we just do that by using F4 and locking in and making those cells absolute. Then we copy this down. So you can now see we have the finish dates for the project tasks accounting for both weekends and for public holidays. What we'll do now is we'll now look at the task days remaining. So what we want to do with task remaining days is calculate the number of days remaining for each respective task compared to today. So we're trying to see the lapse time there is left to complete that particular task. And to do that, we're going to use a new function called network days. So if we open up the builder, click on network days and drag that across, you can see there are 3 fields. You have a start date, an end date, and the holidays. The start date will be today, so we're going to use the today function for that. So you type in today and open and close the parenthesis to input the today function. And that will always then account for today. Even when we close the workbook and come back to work tomorrow or next week, the date will change. The end date is the end date of the task itself. And the holidays, again, are the holidays from the public holidays tab. And again, we'll lock those in with absolute cells by using F4. Then press done. And what you have then is the number of days between today and the 8th of August. Now, what you can see here is that's quite a large number on this particular example, and that's because I'm producing this tutorial on May the 21st, and the time between May the 21st and 8th of August just happens to be 54 working days. Of course, as we get closer to the task or within the project, those days will change greatly. We'll just copy this down, and there you have it, the number of working days between today's date, whatever date that may be, and the respective finish date for the task. We'll now do just a little bit of cleaning up, and we'll center the task days remaining and the duration days. And that's the end of step 3. We'll now move on to step 4, and we'll add the bars. Now, of course, what you could do with a Gantt chart and the particular timing bars, you could just add them manually. As you can see here, it's easily done, just color shade them out. But it's a very inefficient way of working, and it also can lead to a lot of errors. So what we're going to do in this particular model is we're going to make sure that whatever the start and finish dates are, there's bars that reflect those particular dates. And to do that, we're going to use conditional formatting, and we're going to compare the start and finish dates and add bars along with that duration. To start with, we'll highlight the whole range where we expect to put the bars in, so the field of the Gantt chart itself, the body of the Gantt chart. And then we'll go up to conditional formatting. We'll open up the menu, and we'll go across to highlight cell rules and then a date occurring. In that particular menu box, the new formatting rule, we want to click on where it says only format cells that contain, and then click on the area that says use a formula to determine which cells to format. And this then gives you the opportunity to type in a manual formula. And what we're going to do here is we're going to use the AND rule, and we're going to type in and we're going to reference a specific date, and then we're going to say, is that date greater than or equal to the start date, and is it less than or equal to the finish date? And if it is, we're then going to add some formatting. One thing we do want to do, though, is we want to make sure that when we copy this particular formula, or when it's used across the range, that it does move along with the particular cells. So to do that, we need to make sure that the column of the specific date is not locked. So we'll remove the $sign, the absolute nature of that. And then for the start and finish date, we want to make sure the rows are flexible and relative. So again, we'll move the $signs from those. So with that done, we'll open up the Format With section, and then we'll click on Customized Formatting. And you can see here that we need to open the Fill tab, and with the Fill tab we can choose the color we want the bars to be. I've chosen for a sort of a middle blue color, so we just click on that middle blue, and then press OK. Press OK again on the new formatting rule, and there you are, there's our bars. And they will change now whenever you change the dates. So for example, if I click on the finish date of the 8th of August and make that the 10th of August, you can see that the bar extends to the 10th of August. And again, if I change the 14th of August in task 2 to the 20th, you can see again that the bar extends across. So that's dynamic now. When any date's there, the bars will extend to that and show that without having to manually input the bars. Okay, with the timing bars now in place, we'll just add 2 more bits of functionality that will make the Gantt chart far more dynamic and efficient. To start with, we want to make sure that that when we start a project, it starts on a Monday, and the starting date on the particular timeline is always a Monday. At the moment, it's not. We could click any date in the project start, and it will show that particular day at the start of the timeline. So to change this, right-click on the project start date, open up the drop-down menu, and go to Define Name. When the Define Name menu opens up, we'll type in a name and we'll call it Project Start. Use an underscore between the 2 words, otherwise Excel won't accept it. Click OK, and you've named a cell. Now we're going to change the formula in this first particular cell here, and we're going to say plus the project start minus weekday function, open the brackets, open the parentheses, add the range of project start, and then click number 3 to add Mondays. And then what you'll find then is whenever you change the date, for example here the 30th, the 7th, it will always stay as a Monday. If you choose the 5th, for example, which is a Saturday, again, if you just input that, it will still continue as a Monday start date on the particular table, which is great. And what we'll do finally is just add a display weeks, which will allow us to scroll through certain weeks within the project at our leisure. To do that, we'll click on F3, which is the display week field. Right click on it, go down again to the define name, define the name and just call it display underscore week. Press OK. And then we'll amend again the formula of the first day in our timeline. To do this, we'll click back on the first date on the timeline, and we'll edit the formula in the formula bar, and we'll add plus, open parenthesis, the display week name, close the parenthesis, then multiply or star asterisk 7. So if you then put number 1 in there, for example, then 2, 3 onwards, it will then bring that particular week to the front of the timeline and allow you to review weeks a little bit more efficiently than just scrolling across. Okay, that's the end of step 4. We'll move on to our final step in step 5, and we'll look at monitoring the progress. So step 5 and monitoring progress, what we actually want to do here is be able to put percentages or values against each task and be able to track those on the bars that we have in the Gantt chart. To do that, we need to add some progress percentages into the progress area. So the first thing we'll do is highlight the progress fields, and we'll convert the format to percentages. And then we'll type in just 3 examples of percentages for the first 3 tasks as if they've already started in our project. The next thing we'll do is we'll add some conditional formatting to this particular field, so to the progress field. So we'll highlight it again, we'll open up conditional formatting, and we'll go down to data bars, and we'll just choose any particular one, and we'll click on it, and you can see what data bars does. It highlights some bars relative to the measure. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the shaded out bars, so what we'll do is we'll make them solid. We'll go back into conditional formatting, and we'll go down to more rules, and then we'll click on blue, and we'll make them the same color as the timing bars. Just while we're at that, I've just noticed that the work days remaining is empty, so we'll just complete that off and close it off. So we need to put a networking days function, same as the task remaining days. So networking days, and then today, so we're using today's date, and then we'll choose the end date of the project, and then also account for the public holidays. That will then give us the number of days from today till the end of the project, and just gives you an overall macro view, if you like, of the timeline of the project. I'll also return the display week back to 0 so that we get the start of the project, and we'll also make the project start and the workday central. And while we're at it, we'll just drag the headings down and remove some rows just to make it all nice and tidy while we complete this final stage. Returning back to the bars and being able to add progress to them. And what we want to do is we want the bars to be shaded out to the level of the percentage of progress. So for example, these are blue bars, and if we could shade in task 1.1 50% of the bar out in red, that would show a progress level. And we could input then the progress at any time, and it would then update that red shading. To do that, we need to use conditional formatting, and we need to input a manual formula. And that formula needs to account for the start date of the task, the end date of the task, and then the percentage of task progress. And it then needs to format the particular bar relevant to that task with that shading. And I'll show you how to do that now. To start with, we need to create 3 named cells. We did earlier on, we created the project start and the display week as a named week. We do this slightly differently now, and we'll open up the formulas ribbon, and then on the formulas ribbon, open up the name manager. With the name manager open, click new, and then in the dialog box where it says new name, first of all start by typing in task_start. Then under the scope, open the scope menu and choose Gantt, which is the name of this particular workbook, and then delete the reference and highlight the start date. We want to make sure the rows are relative and can flow down when we copy it, so delete the $, the absolute from that, and click OK. New again, and we'll do this for the finished, the task finish. Start another one, task_finish. Again, the Gantt workbook. Remove the reference and click on the finish cell, and then remove the absolute $, against the row. OK that, and then go back on one more new one. This time we're going to use the progress, so just type in progress. Again, change the scope, and then reference the progress cell and remove the $. OK, so now we have 3 cells named. The next stage in this is now to highlight the full range that we want the conditional formatting to be applied, which is actually the bar range, the full range of the Gantt chart itself, the body of it. Click on that, and then click on conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, back down to date occurring, and choose the manual formula. We'll now type in a formula that will do exactly what I described earlier on. We'll take the start date, the finish date, and the progress, and we'll account for that progress in that timeline of the start and finish date. And now input the following formula. 1 asterisk or 1 multiplied by the AND function, open a parenthesis, and we want to use the date, so H3, and if that is greater than or equal to the task start, and less than or equal to the task start, plus the progress multiplied by the task finish, minus the task start, plus 1, and then minus 1. This is a lengthy and complex formula, so I've copied this and I've included it in the description of this video. So when you get to this stage in creating this this particular Gantt chart, you can just copy paste this in there. Once it's in place, you need to then go down to the customize format,
and choose how you want to shade the completed parts of the task. I tended to use a red and a pattern. So, for example, here chose red and then just shaded it out with a certain dotting and OK. And then press OK again, and there you go. And then as you can see, if we change some of these percentages, the bars will change. So if we change this from 50% to 100%, the whole bar will shade out. What's interesting though is you'll see when we go back to 50 that the red element of the bar is not purely 50% across or halfway across, and that's because the number of days in this task is odd. And if it's odd, the calculation errs on the side of caution and shows you that the completion is not quite at the even level or at the halfway mark. It's just a nuance of the calculation, but I'll be honest with you, I think it's probably a prudent thing because it just gives you a little bit more of a warning of where you are with the particular task. And that's almost it. Just a couple of things cosmetically to change. We'll just zoom out so we can have a look at this in a bit more detail. And then what I'm going to do is highlight all the data in the weeks and just make those shrink to fit. So we'll just go down and right click and go to format cells and then down to assign alignments and shrink to fit. And then we'll just highlight all the columns and make those slightly narrower. I think they were 2.5, we'll make them 1.5. Just makes it a little bit more compact. And that's it. An automated Gantt chart using Excel. We've accounted for weekends and public holidays in the task timelines. We have progress bars that allow you to track and monitor each task itself. And the bars themselves will automatically populate when you add dates into the plan. I do hope you found this useful and enjoyed the video. If you do, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also press the alert. We will be doing more videos with more templates. I've also got some other ideas around this Gantt chart that I might expand on over time and release a sort of a version 2.0 if you like. But in the meantime, thanks ever so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.